This is the Manga Mavericks podcast from allcomic.com. We are a podcast not only dedicated to talking about manga as a medium, but as an industry. I'm Colton, and here you go, guys. Just like I said last episode, you are getting an episode of Manga Mavericks a week early. And just to explain why real quick, in case you may not have listened to the last episode, Sid and I were joined by Annalisa Christman and Wensleydale Cheddar to extensively discuss Daisuke Ashihara's sports manga disguised as a battle manga, World Trigger, which has been on hiatus since, I want to say about a year at this point, a year and a half. I forget off the top of my head. But we had a pretty fun discussion last episode, and, I enjoyed it. But the thing is, we did the thing that we like to do where we spend way too long recording a podcast, and we get to a point where it's like, oh, maybe we should just cut some of this out and maybe release it as its own episode or release it in parts or whatever, because that's something we try to do a little more often now instead of releasing like 4 or 5 hour podcasts, even though the last podcast we recorded and released was about a little over 4 hours, but whatever. Sometimes these things can't be helped. So just like I said last episode, I basically cut out the part where we started answering your guys' questions that you sent in for the show, and basically decided to take those and make that into a whole episode on its own. So what you're going to be listening to is basically, I want to say about the last 40 minutes to an hour of that discussion where Sid basically answers all of your World Trigger questions. But just a few notes before we head into the Q&As here. So essentially, we did have some technical difficulties. So there are going to be a few sections of the podcast that I kind of had to cut, specifically because Wensleydale and his audio basically kind of just kind of stopped recording about, I forget how long into the discussion, but there's basically a huge 20-minute gap where Wensleydale's mic basically didn't pick up anything he was saying, and we had to stop the show to basically try and figure that out and have him start recording on a whole different track in Audacity and everything. So unfortunately, there was a portion of the podcast that I had to cut where basically I had to cut all the parts where we are clearly talking to Wensleydale, because otherwise you would be listening to us talking to nothing. So there were some parts of the show where Wensleydale did have answers to your questions, but we had to cut them because, again, his mic didn't pick up on anything he was saying for about 20 minutes of the show. And also, I think I drop out and Annalisa drop out soon afterwards during the call because I had to go to work and Annalisa had somewhere to be. So we eventually had to drop out of the show. So we couldn't stay for the whole time. But eventually Sid and Wensleydale basically powered through and answered basically all of your questions. And so, so I just wanted to get some of that stuff out of the way before we get into the show. There were some technical difficulties, and some of us did have to drop out of the show early. So we do apologize for that, that you won't get to listen to the entirety of the discussion. But we still answered pretty much everybody's questions. Thank you guys so much for sending in your questions. We really appreciate those. We'll say it at the end of the show, but if you have anything you want to send over to the show for us to read on the podcast, you can send us anything, any of your World Trigger questions, anything manga-related, podcast-related, over at mangamavericks@gmail.com. Send us as many of those emails as you can. We love getting those, and we love reading them on the show. So I'm just going to stop talking and stalling and whatever, that rambly thing I like to do. And we're just going to get right into your World Trigger Q&As. Enjoy the rest of the show.
We should probably wrap it up a little bit, while first maybe quickly going over some questions as fast as we can, because we do have to log on off a little bit here. But we got a lot of questions, which I was very happy for. We actually have some questions from Annalise that we asked on Sunday before we knew she would be able to come on. But let's see. But there is an interesting question you asked, Annalise, that like we didn't get to discuss in this podcast so far. Is like, what characters are our least favorites? I mean, I know you mentioned Katori, but for everyone else, like, what are your least favorite World Trigger characters?
So, I don't really have those. I have elements of certain characters that I would like to see toned down or exaggerated to make them better, but I don't have characters I actively dislike. Like, I would like to see Jin not commit sexual harassment.
Yeah, that I do not like that aspect of Jin's character at all.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah.
He's only done it twice, but still, I do not appreciate that.
2 times too many, buddy.
Yeah, that was what's so weird about that is like you can't tell whether like I know what scene you guys are talking about. It's that one of the very first scenes where it's like he's like, I can't tell if he's about to touch her butt or if he did, or if he's just like, or if he's doing that thing where it's like, I'm not touching you, like like I don't know what that was all about. That was weird.
I think the implication was that he slapped
Sawamura.
Sawamura and Kuma.
Yeah. And Kumagai.
Kumagai, yes. Which the anime actually didn't really know what to do with it. So instead, I don't remember the second case, but the first time with Sawamura, they just added Sawamura and Jin flirting a little bit, which was kind of creepy in its own right, since Sawamura is an adult and Jin is still legally a kid. So yeah.
Oh, that's weird. I don't know. I'm sure it's not this, but I really want to think that Jin is just super oblivious and he just does that thing where it's like, hey guys, good game, smacks on the butt. Good game, guys, good game. But I know it's not that, but in a better world, he's oblivious, but I don't know. It's such a weird thing. I'm glad he doesn't do it more than twice, but again, like Annalisa said, that's twice too many. So
I almost wonder if it's Ashika's like, I gotta put some fan service in here, right?
It's not really even a fan servicey moment.
Yeah,
it's just like
does this count? No, it doesn't. Don't do that thing.
It's just like oh guys, we've got to make the butterfly guy meme, and just with this moment instead of the butterfly, is this fan service?
I don't know. It's just it's like one of those things where it's like, why is that in there? I don't know.
Yeah, not a big fan of that. Hopefully, it never pops up again. But like Wednesday, though, I also don't really have a character I dislike, really. I think because I think all of them are very interesting, and like even like the most rotten apples, like Katori, like I find interesting. So,
actually, my least favorite character, I think at first used to be Kitora, just because I found her attitude a little annoying. But after discussing her a bit on the show today, I kind of understand where she's coming from, and I think her attitude is sort of justified. But I don't know, there are just some points where it's like, man, she could be kind of vain sometimes, and that kind of turns me off of her character a little bit. But I understand where that comes from, but that doesn't mean I always agree with it.
But, Annalisa, you also asked another question. Which mascot animal is better, Raijin Maru or the head-sitting battle cat?
Evil Kitty.
Are all you guys on Evil Kitty's side?
Raijin Maru, I'm sorry. I'm on Raijin Maru's side.
I'm on side Raijin Maru, too.
I don't know. Like, I love Battle Cat. I really love Battle Cat, but Raijin Maru is just solid,
I want a plush of Raijin Maru, so...
Yeah.
There has to be plushes of Raijin Maru out there, right?
I mean, I guess you just get a capybara plush.
I will give you that. Having a capybara as your mascot is really original, and I like that.
It's also awesome that Yotaro can ride it around, too.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so... I guess it's like 3 versus 1 Raijimaru. Okay. And so now we have some questions from Metal Marion EXE, who asks, what are your favorite squads from the B rank wars? And would you be a sniper, gunner, shooter, all-rounder, attacker, operator, or trapper? There's like multiple questions in one feed, so let's just start at this first one.
We should tackle these one at a time.
Yeah, so our favorite squads from the B rank wars. I think for me it is, I really like Nasu squad. I just like all their designs. I like their individual things going on that they were fighting, you know, kind of like, it's like definitely like a sports shonen narrative there. It's like, okay, our teammate is moving away, so we are going to like go to the top to be the best as we are currently, the best as this team currently is. So it's like,
we're in our last year of high school. We better get this done.
Exactly. Our seniors are graduating. We need to win to honor the memories of our team and our friendship. So it's like, yeah. So I really like that. I really like them. I also like that Nasu is like this sickly character, but you know, when she's in a Triumph party, she's like super skilled and you know, powerful. And I really like that fight she and Akuma guy had against the Galapola girl. Wen Show? It's Wen something, I think. But that was a great fight. And again, I like both Kakizaki and Katori squads, because again, I also thought they had interesting things going on with them in that fight they had with Tanakoma too. Kakizaki being, you know, he was once on Arashiyama's team, but like he always had this inferiority conflict. So when Arashiyama squad became the public face of Border, like he kind of quit and moved into the B ranks. But like there were people who, you know, respected him when like they saw him on TV a long time ago. And so they joined his team. But like, he's like, man, these people who join my team, they deserve to be way higher ranked than they are. You know, they are so skilled. They work so hard. And I feel like as their captain, I'm just bringing them down. I'm not worthy to have such great teammates. So I really like that team, and Kakizaki in particular. And then again, with Katori squad, I think like the fact that they're such a dysfunctional group is very interesting to me. And I'm really interested in seeing like how they'll grow out of that. So I guess those are like my 3 picks for now.
I just want to say I like Kakizaki squad too, if not for the fact that Kakizaki in particular, I feel like him and Osamu are kind of parallel characters in that they both really just want to be an asset to their team, and they don't want to diminish the overall value of their teamwork and their team in general. So as parallels, I found him kind of interesting. I have to say, Ikoma Squad is probably my favorite, though. Like no question, because they're the funniest. Like I don't make the rules, so
just accept the truths in life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to say Kageura is probably my favorite. I mean, besides Tamakoma 2.
I was just gonna say, my favorite B rank squad is Tamakoma 2.
Yeah, if we're not including Tamakoma 2, I'd have to say Kageura. I like all the characters. I think they're interesting. And Ikoma. I like all the B rank squads generally. I at least enjoy characters in them. But those 2, besides Tamakoma 2, are the standouts for me.
Well, for mine, it would be probably, for the dynamic, Suzunari-1. I really like the way that Taichi's character plays with the what's the name of the operator? Suzunari-1. Oh, I forgot. In any case, they have a kind of a Tsukami Bokeh relationship, and I like that. I like Kuruma's nervousness. He's actually a good tactician in his own right, and I like that his efforts were appreciated in the rank battle too, in the commentary. And of course, I do like Murakami's side effect and backstory a lot, and his relationship with Arafune. In terms of being utilized in the story, though, yeah, I do like Kageura squad the best. Especially Yuzuru, who has contributed to Chika's subplot so much. We have Kageura himself, who is a very entertaining character and one of the standout designs. And we have the operator. I can't remember her name now. I'm bad with operators. She's very entertaining though. She's so sleepy, and when Yuzuru arrives with Izuho and Chika, she's just young Emma has brought girls to our room. Should I give you some snacks? Do you want to sit under a kotatsu?
I love the detail that she also watches horror movies alone in her room, and she has these creepy grin on her face, so everyone is creeped out by it when they enter her room. A lot of great characters. So, yeah, I guess we answered the next question kind of at the beginning of the show. Would you be a sniper, gunner, shooter, all-rounder, attacker, operator, trapper? We kind of all answer that we'd be snipers, because we'd be a squad like Arafune Squad. What are your favorite trigger loadout combinations?
I mean, if we were talking about like a specific characters set, I'd have to say Kazuma's, mostly because it's similar to the type of trigger set I'd want. That kind of ninja sneak up type with mole claws. That's very important.
I guess for me, I like the combination Chika uses for like the rifle she has, and of course, what's it called? The lead bullets, yeah, because like it's specifically a combination that only she could really use because of how much Tryon she has. Because she has like this rifle that can, shoot really fast, but like, it wouldn't normally have as much power behind it. Or like you couldn't really do the combination she does without like her specific moveset, or like her specific, Tryon capacity, like the amount of Tryon she has. So I like that because it's so unique to the character. It was like a very smart use of what this character's strengths were. Okay, favorite neighbor.
So I particularly really like the rabbit design.
Oh, the rabbit design is so good.
It's cute, but it's also really menacing.
It's like a bunny on steroids.
It's like a bunny with armor, almost.
I guess if we move on, if you haven't already, recommend the Anime's OST by Kenji Kawai. I listened to it while reading through World Trigger on this reread, and yeah, it's actually pretty good. Toei's OSTs are usually pretty good.
I've never listened to the World Trigger soundtrack, so I guess I'll have to give it a listen later.
Okay, who do you like the most from Tamako 2 and why? I think we all can answer Osamu.
Yeah, I think I like Osamu the best out of the three. Annalisa, what's your answer?
Oh, I can't decide, guys. It'll be a mystery forever.
Well, I guess we'll never know.
We'll never know.
Have you read any of the volume extras, and do you like having that kind of information on the side? Know any other series that have that kind of service from the author? Does side info, like Oda's SBS, improve a series for you? We talked about it a little before, but I really love all the information Ashihara includes about how he comes up with characters and like how he thought he used the characters in the stories and what he liked about that, and also like his jokey comments in the back in the bonus character pages where he'll like be playful with the characters about their character quirks and background details about them.
I think it's super great. I love when an author will give you that extra information. Anytime an author does it, I appreciate it. Like and often it's information you wouldn't get any other way. Like in Black Clover, there's little character bios like Lotus, the old man from the first dungeon arc. He's got a loving wife and kids, but you'd never know that unless you read his little 2-sentence bio. So I really appreciate when authors further expand their universe like that. Definitely.
I always love reading that stuff, because I always love seeing how, authors create their stories.
I feel like I probably missed out in this regard because, like I said earlier, I read through all of World Trigger through my jump issue backlog, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like I probably would have gotten a little bit more out of World Trigger and its characters if I had that info on me. Because, like, I don't know, personally, I like some of the characters in World Trigger, but I feel like I kind of mostly just kind of took the series at face value. And I feel like I probably would have gotten more out of the series if I had read it through the volumes and I had that extra info with me on hand, just to kind of enhance my experience reading it. But yeah, I feel I kind of regret just reading it through the volumes because I feel like I kind of missed out a little bit. I'll probably have to go back and buy those volumes at my own pace here.
Yeah, I especially think with World Trigger, there are nuggets of like context Ashihara gives to characters in these character pages that like makes you think about them in a different way than you might if you just read the series without that information about them. Like how we mentioned before about like that the idea that Mira is going to be in a political marriage with either Hyrene or Rambanine. That's like a super interesting detail that's like not addressed in the story itself, but like it makes you think about what's going on with these characters from what we're not seeing right now. Like what is like their what is there more to them that will be seen later maybe. And the final question from Metal Mirror and EXT here is are you put off by Ashihara's sing face designs? Which we kind of addressed earlier, that it's a little bit of mixed. Most of us aren't not turned off, but it seems like it can cause problems sometimes when recognizing characters. And will you continue reading if it comes back to serialization?
Of course.
Yes.
I think I'll continue reading it, but I'll probably read it in chunks unless it's a part of the story that I'm like really, really, really into. Like I said, I dropped it initially because I think I just like reading the B rank war arc in particular in chunks rather than weekly. Especially since they're very like action focused, action heavy chapters most of the time. So I feel like I get more out of matches when I can read a complete match in one sitting. But that's just me personally.
I hear that. I think they are stronger reading in chunks like that.
I will continue reading it week to week, but I definitely think that now that I've gone through the experience of reading it through the volume format and seeing how the story plays out that way, and also like really appreciating how the story flows in when you read it in chunks, I probably will do that more often when more World Trigger graphic novels come out. Like after they come out, I read it in the graphic novel format, just all in one sitting, and see how it plays out to me. And of course, I think we all wanted to come back. And so her final question is there something about Ashihara's work that you like? Humor, plot foreshadowing, etc.
I like his characters. I like his character writing. I mean, like, I like pretty much everything about his work. Mm-hmm. But I think his characters are very strong and interesting. And yeah, I know that's kind of a general answer, but...
Yeah, I really like the way Ashihara has constructed, the story and how much thought he put into the story. Details like about the other members of Tamakoma branch, like when he first set up Tamakoma branch, like we had these glimpses of, two characters from the back. Forget their names. Like one of them is also named Rindo, and then the other one is like the guy who's masquerading as a Canadian, but is actually a neighbor. And it's like,
yeah.
So he established that these characters were also a part of this branch, like back in when he first introduced Tamakoma branch, but it took like over 100 chapters and almost 3 years until he actually introduced them into the story. So I really like that he's thought out the story and like the details of the world so thoroughly, and that just makes it very interesting to me to see how everything is going to play out, and also like what more he might have in store, because it seems like he's building a world that's as a deep and history. It has as much history as like the world of One Piece even. So I'm really intrigued by that.
I guess I really enjoy the for what little we got in the beginning. I really do enjoy when World Trigger is a political drama. I think those are some of the aspects of his writing we get the least out of everything in the series, but That's probably when I personally like World Trigger the most, is basically just seeing these different factions kind of battle against each other and trying to outsmart each other, especially when you have, people from Aftocrator kind of in the mix with Anadora. Basically you're interrogating him, trying to get all this info about Aftocrator, and then, basically just trying to work with the neighbors in general. So I really like a lot of that. I like those kinds of subplots in the writing in general. But I don't know. So, I like Ashihara's writing, but I'm also kind of in this weird mix where, there are things I like about his writing, but, somehow I think it's because his writing, especially when it comes to his characters, is so, subdued and whatnot. It, doesn't stand out to me, almost. I don't know. I have a hard time describing my feelings on his writing, honestly.
That's fair. But that does it for questions from Metal Marion EXE. Thank you for asking all those great questions, and we still have quite a few more to go. So let's talk about a question from @Equid, who asks, when will Ashihara continue the manga? And we don't know, but we hope that it will continue when Ashihara is healthy and able.
I mean, obviously, when we get some kind of news about some return of World Trigger, you can be sure we'll discuss it on the podcast. So.
Nathan at LOL283 asked, why is World Trigger the best sports manga? And we talked about that earlier in the podcast, so I don't think we'll go too much into it here, but it is. Yes, it is the
See, my dick answer is I Shield 21 and Slam Dunk exists. I'm sorry, those are the rules. But my actual answer is, I don't think it's the best sports manga, but I mean, that is something I like about World Trigger, is that Ashihara purposely incorporates these aspects of a sports manga into it's World Trigger is such a good combination of both a battle and sports series, and I think that's one of the things that makes it unique amongst amongst other series in the magazine.
I agree. And at RedScar64 asks, which agents from the Rank Wars do you expect to see later in the series, and which ones are you the most excited to see? I think we'll see most of the top ranked B characters that have gotten a lot of focus. I think we'll definitely see Ko Murakami. I think we'll see Ikoma. I think we'll see Ninomiya. God, I always get him mixed up. I think we'll see Kage. I think we'll see Yuzuru. All the characters that have gotten a real focus outside of the Rank Wars and have a connection to Tamakoma 2, I think we'll see again. I think they'll go on the expedition.
I was gonna say, I guess out of the ones that are coming on the expedition, I want to learn more about Kageura, because I feel like there's potential for him to be a really interesting character.
Yeah, I'm hoping for more on Kageura and Zoe, because he's the least developed out of the Kageura squad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I also assume we're just going to see kind of the higher ranked, Ninomiya, Kageura, Ikoma, maybe not all of Ikoma squad, but probably Ikoma himself.
Yeah. Okay, and that does it for Twitter questions. And so now we'll move on to Reddit questions. We have some questions from Alaska S, who asks, how do you view Osamu's growth over the series?
Excellent. Awesome. He's perfect.
Yeah, his growth, it makes sense. It's very interesting, and I think he goes through some good development.
I think it's the heart of the series and a large part of what makes it so endearing to me. The next question is, do you agree with a big part of the community's opinion that the World Trigger power system is one of the best and not the best in the manga world?
It's an interesting claim. I never really thought about it like that.
I don't like thinking of power systems and power levels, so I never really thought about it either. But
that kind of stuff doesn't really necessarily interest me, because
I think it's more like the power system in terms of how the triggers are used, more so than the ranking idea of which characters are stronger. I think it's more kind of how the characters use their powers, how the combination of triggers, the types of trigger users there are.
I really like it. I'm biased, but I'd say a lot of things in World Trigger are, up there with being the best. So Yes, it's very good.
I'd say in that sense, I think it's pretty good too. I think it's an interesting system, kind of on sort of on the level of like, you know, the Nen system, except not as overly detailed, I guess, or as expansive.
I think I really like how well thought out the system is, and I think that I like systems that are intricate and they have nuances to them, and there's like so many, and just it opens itself up for a lot of different strategies. It's kind of like what I like about Nen and Hunter x Hunter. And Colton has had to bow out for now, but we've got Wensleydale back, and we're going to finish up these questions from Alaska S. Let's talk about what is your opinion on the non-main character arc of the manga? Would you like to see something like this again?
Yes. I love it. I love that we get so much information about the side characters. It's fantastic. I think it really populates the world well.
Yeah, this definitely makes it seem like Border is in a real world. Like, those relationship between characters are so good. Everything is connected. This is how I imagine a very expansive world in a series should be like. World Trigger is definitely a great example of that.
Yeah, when multiple characters have like their own stories going on and feel fleshed out, it really makes the world feel more like lived in. Like it doesn't like because a lot of times I feel like the worlds of some series revolve around a certain character, but with World Trigger, I really feel it is a world populated with different characters all striving to do their own things, and their paths intersect in interesting ways, and I really appreciate that. Next question. Do you view the non-sexual portrayal of the female characters refreshing or boring? I find it refreshing.
Very refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
It's like, I find, because I don't like the fact that a lot of manga characters sexualized, specifically in like shonen series, because a lot of characters are underage, and also it's just so lopsided on female characters being sexualized, and it's like, I think that just sends a wrong message, and I don't like it. And I think that focusing on the character first and not having any of this sexualized portrayal is just so much better, and just so much it allows I don't like the characters being objectified, so I like that the characters are just characters and they're treated equally.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with a character being sexy, but yeah, this series puts the character first, and it doesn't just, it doesn't make it so, yeah, they're just a sexy character on the sidelines. They're a character.
Yeah, I really respect Ashihara for that. Although, so I've seen the anime.
Oh, no.
And yes, it does have its own beach/water park episode in the filler arc.
Well, it's Toei Animation.
It's got to do what it's got to do.
So, I'm not surprised. Considering what they've done with One Piece, that's already pretty pervy, but the anime just makes it so much worse. Yeah, Toei Animation, don't trust them with the fan service, even on the most chaste of series.
Yeah, especially... Didn't One Piece have recently a controversy with one of the recently introduced characters?
Yeah, with Bello Betty, which, honestly, I don't think there should be as much controversy over that character as there's been. Because, okay, so the big thing with Bello Betty is that she doesn't wear a shirt, right? She just has this jacket, and it's just covering her boobs, but she's, not wearing a shirt. So, and she's not wearing a bra. So it's they're just hanging out there, and it's okay. But, the thing in that chapter itself, it's we don't have exploitative shots of her that emphasize that. The character just is the way she is. And it's not even called attention to the fact that she's not wearing a bra or a shirt or anything. There's no forced fan service moments in that chapter.
Yeah, the male gaze is toned down.
Yeah, so I don't super like Betty's design. But I also feel like the conversation around it, especially like the vitriolic conversation that's kind of happened surrounding it, that's like been heated and been bitter, and I've just seen some very heated conversations that I feel did not have to be the way they are, because like to me this is one of the most benign character design choices that Oda has done with a female character. And it's not offensive to me, at least. I don't see it as offensive as something like, when Smoker in the Punk Hazard arc, when he was in Tashigi's body, he like ripped open her jacket and like had like her boobs hanging out.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, cause with that, it's not even Tashigi's
decision.
Choice. It's like Smoker is like appropriating like her body. It's like kind of like doing something with her body without her permission. So it's like it feels more exploitative. It feels more uncomfortable there. With Betty, she's like fully in control of herself. She's like she has her own agency. So I don't mind that like she has a risque character design, because in the context of her character, she is making a conscious choice and is proud of that, and it's not something that bothers her.
Well, yeah, although, having her own agency, she is still a fictional character created by a straight male.
Yeah, but when we have to extend the conversation backwards even to that, then none of the characters have their own agency. So just in the context of the story, we have to...
Yeah, I get you. For example, I find it much more annoying and uncomfortable, for example, when it comes to Jin's hijinks, or whenever Mineta appears in My Hero Academia, essentially while the conversation about the female body is getting creepy in universe.
Yeah. I mean, that is always a problem when it's like, with One Piece in particular, there's, like with Film Z, which I guess is anime thing, but like we have Sanji kind of perving out a little bit over like young Nami. It's like, stuff like that when it happens is uncomfortable. Especially when it's a character we're supposed to like. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, fortunately Sanji was redeemed lately by the Totland arc, so shall we save the conversation for our One Piece podcast?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So the final question from Alaska Esk is, the author is not afraid to let his characters fail. Do you think Osamu and his unit will succeed? In terms of going on the away team, I think so. I think they will succeed in that. But there is this uneasiness Osamu's feeling before their match with Kageura Squad, Azuma Squad, and Suzanari 1, so who knows? They might lose their next match, but I feel like ultimately they will end up going on the away mission.
Yeah, they are probably gonna lose the first one due to not yet having experience as a team with Hyusei, and then win the next one. And then make the cut for the neighborhood expedition. But still, it probably doesn't mean that that we don't have many more hurdles in the development, because so you've made some speculations on the future of the series. So what I would find interesting is either Kazama or Tachikawa becoming the leader of the away expedition. And the next hurdle being to proving that they can be useful in recon teams, since due to Chika having to stay on the ship, they may be assigned to guard it, bringing Hyusei out only when necessary. Oh yeah, also Karasawa is planning, is suggesting that Hyusei should be killed just when they go to Eftokrator, so...
I don't think they will betray Hyusei like that, and I don't think Hyusei will betray them in quite the way, at least we're expecting. I feel like they will succeed ultimately in getting to Africator, and like I don't know what Hyusei is going to do, but I think that he's going to stay on their side ultimately.
Yeah, if I may make a prediction here, I think that a huge point a plot point being in the future is that when they eventually find a lead to Chika's brother and friend, Osamu and the others will have to break away from Border and go off on their own. I would find this interesting, although I'm not sure how World Trigger would be interesting in a non-institutionalized setting. Like, when the Promised Neverland stopped being in Gracefield, it became less and less interesting. Do you think the same could happen in World Trigger once the away mission happens?
I don't think necessarily, because there's going to be more institutions in the form of the other societies of the neighbor worlds that they'll probably have to operate within, or at least, like, because they are in a military structure still, in terms of how Border is run as an agency, there will still be rules into how they operate and how they engage in combat and how they employ their tactics. So I feel like even if we lose the, like, sports element of it from the rank wars, like, we're still gonna keep the institutionalized, like, military element of Border.
Yeah, especially since Ashihara-sensei seems like a much better planner than Shirai-sensei.
Well, I mean, I feel I'm more positive on Promised Neverland than you are, but yeah, I do think that Ashihara will make the transition from these rank wars to that and to the expedition arc a lot more smoothly than Promised Neverland did, from leaving Gracefield to where it is now. And then we have a question from Rainy Boy, who asks, what do you think about Ashihara not communicating? I don't think that's a bad sign necessarily. I just think that Ashihara will only say something once, he's ready to come back. So we don't have any indication that, like, his health is, like, worsening. I think, it might be improving bit by bit, but I don't think it's, like, anything to worry about necessarily. I just think that, they will only make an announcement of when World Trigger is coming back when it's ready to come back.
Yeah, nothing to add, really.
Electroxio asked, here's a couple of questions. Have you seen the Primo adaptation dub? If so, what do you think about the dub and their take on the storyline? I've seen clips and stuff, and we mentioned it before, but I think the voices are fine. I just think, like, the voice direction that the actors are given isn't always the best.
I think that Yuma's voice is spot on. I don't think the clips that I saw, the promotional clips, really represent Ashihara's humor or just writing in general very well. So I don't think they're really all that good, and I don't think they're gonna advertise World Trigger well.
Yeah, I'm not very impressed with their World Trigger promotions. They're just not exciting enough, they're just pretty, they feel like all cut from the same template, honestly, with, like, their character promos in particular.
They seem like the most generic thing ever.
So I don't know if they've changed the storyline at all, if they have, maybe, but as far as the dub performances go and the promotions go, mediocre, unfortunately. But at least just based on what we've seen of it.
Could you imagine if the World Trigger dub got the 4Kids treatment?
I mean, at least it'd be on Saturday mornings on a channel more people would see, hopefully.
What do you think the sniper rifles would be replaced with?
They probably would just call it a sniper rifle. I think they would just remove all references to that and stuff.
Just paintball guns.
Yeah, actually, they would recolor the rifles. They would do that, so it looks more like water guns or something.
Okay. And when they get to the large-scale invasion, we're gonna defeat the enemy with those water guns. We're gonna splash them real hard.
Yeah. Oh, Osamu had ketchup packets in his pocket. Osamu, they're leaking out. You fell down too hard, dude. Why'd you have ketchup in your pocket?
Get rid of those suction cups, Yuma.
Oh, oh man, Osamu, you're so clumsy. You tripped over. I thought if she had missed attacking you, but you tripped over anyway.
And Osama, I would imagine, would have like the least appropriate voice ever, like, "Hello, I'm Osama, and I think this is the thing I need to do. I'm not a hero."
Oh boy. Poor kid Stubbs. What a memory. So speaking of faithfulness, do you feel their portrayal of Osamu is faithful to how Ashihara portrays him in the manga? So, like, our opinion on, like, Osamu's English dub voice actor. Yeah. It's I think the voice is fitting, but man, did they change, like, the characterization?
I don't really remember. I'm just really sad that they didn't hire me to do it. I mean, seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, did you send in your voice file?
That must have been my mistake.
Maybe you'd also have to be from Canada.
There you go. Then Dr. Nova could do it.
Yeah, they should have fired him. Okay, next set of questions here comes from the Sleepy Guy, who asks, what can you say about the character development in the series? Was it too slow for a normal shonen anime? I thought the character development moved on at a good clip. I think we got to know Osamu and Yuma pretty fast enough. I mean, and when you're reading in a volume format, it definitely reads faster than I guess it did when you were reading it weekly. To get to the point where, like, we find out Yuma's backstory and kind of humanize him a little bit from, like, the kind of, arrogant, the super perfect character he kind of was introduced as. That's at, like, chapter 20 when we get his backstory. So that is like 5 months to get there, but in the grand scheme of things, I think Ashihara laid out the character development at a good pacing for the most part.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that chapter 2 was really good in establishing Yuma as, Mr. Culture Clash, and just having his development and his conflict be, okay, Osamu sees potential in him being a humanoid neighbor, so, probably the enemy from his standpoint, but he seems like a pretty cool guy, and maybe we could keep him safe and take him on our side, and be friends with a neighbor. So that's basically the conflict, and I think it makes for quite a good one.
This next question is, would you consider Osamu's position as the main character in the series similar or on par with other tactical leader characters like Shiraway from Log Horizon or Momonoga / Lord Ainz from Overlord? I don't have a whole lot of experience with those series.
I don't know them at all.
Yeah. But, like, Osamu to me is unique because he is the main character of his series, whereas similar characters to him, I feel, would be in the supporting role. I'm thinking of, like, characters who are normal, but, do their best to help out the cause at the end of the day, or, like, show that, they have something to add to a situation that makes their skills and presence valuable. Like Yako from Neuro is like a normal girl, but just from being around Neuro so much, and because she, unlike Neuro, she has empathy and she understands human emotions well, she's able to solve crimes, or, like, help Neuro solve crimes that he couldn't do on his own.
Or like Best Boy Usopp, who is indeed an odious surrogate because of his weakness, but isn't, a blank slate like someone in that position usually would. And I also commend Osamu for that, because he also has a really strong characterization.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think makes Osamu unique, is that he's the main character of a series when in another series he would probably just be a supporting character.
Or, in a harem manga, he would be a main character.
Well, yeah, in a harem manga, but, like, he would be overshadowed in a harem manga by other characters, because the main character of a harem manga is the least interesting character, usually. But Osamu is like one of the most, if not the most interesting characters from World Trigger. And this leaves you guys' final question. Any thoughts concerning the future of the series, given that the hiatus was set in the middle of the rank wars? I think they'll just continue on with the rank wars until like that reaches its conclusion, and then after that we'll get the expedition.
Yeah, so we said a little bit about this. I think maybe sometime in the neighborhood expedition, Jin may allow himself to become either the prisoner of Husei's or his liege lord. He's gonna assist Husei in some fashion and then manipulate kind of the situation to negotiate peace between Earth and a faction in Eftokrator. By which point we may get to know a little about the infighting and about the different sides in Eftokrator, which we have been teased already with High Rain's plot to get rid of Enadora and Husei. Oh, and finally, one last prediction. In the neighborhood world, Osamu has to overcome his worst enemy, Zapdos.
Oh, and Frosh is there too, of course.
Of course.
Oh. World Trigger Pokemon crossover win. Yashihara should totally make Chris's fanfic canon.
Either that, or I would be just happy if Ashihara Sensei just read them.
Yes. So I hope someone's brought them to his attention. Or at least I hope someone will at some point. I would really love to know Ashihara's thoughts on those. I guess the next question from Halen221 is, why do the side of Osamu's glasses vanish in profile view? They've also noticed this in Your Lie in April. This is an artistic choice, mainly, just to see a character's eyes when they're in profile view for glasses wearing characters, because otherwise, like, they would normally, like, the frame of the glasses would just cover the eyes, but, like, by having those just, like, kind of be see-through, you can see their eyes, and that gives, like, more emotion to a character.
Yeah, it's like how sometimes you can see a character's eyes through the fringe or the eyebrows, especially. So it's basically to make the art more expressive.
It's just a good artistic shorthand for when you have a glasses-wearing character. And how is a black trigger power determined? I think it's based on what the original user's like powers were before they died, and is an amplified version of that. Maybe? They don't explicitly say, but... Okay,
I thought they mean that, how is Black Trigger distinguished? How is it recognized? In comparison
like how
to a regular trigger. I would just say, the color?
Yeah, I mean... a black, like, if it's a black trigger, like, from experience, they know that it's going to be more powerful than normal triggers.
Yes, especially since you probably have Trine soldiers or something else on the engineering team of Medan, where you can measure the type and size of your Trine, like Replica did for Osamu and Chika.
Their next question is, why does Kageura wear a mask? Is he a germaphobe? They don't explicitly say why he wears a mask, I think. But he might wear a mask just to hide his pointy teeth, which might scare people away.
Yeah, that was my exact thought.
That's my headcanon there. Satellite of Lovely asks, do you have any theories of how and when Chika will actually have to kill? Personally, I think it'll be during the Neo-Mia rematch. Because before the series went on hiatus, it heavily implied that Osamu and Yura were going to directly address Chika's issue pretty soon. Yeah, I think definitely there will come a point where Chika will be pushed to actually shoot someone, not with a lead bullet, just, shoot to eliminate them. I don't know if that will happen. I feel like it should happen in the rank wars so that, she'd be prepared to do it when they do the exposition. But it could be interesting that she'd have to, without the crutch of, fighting in a safe environment, a controlled environment like the rank wars, like on the battlefield, she will have to shoot to kill. I think that's going to be like a really interesting dilemma for her when she gets to that crossroad. I don't know when it'll happen, but I do think it will happen.
You know what would be interesting? Okay, Ninomiya is one thing, but maybe the first time she shoots someone, she shoots Yuzuru.
Oh, that's perfect.
Since they are fighting against them, and she could prove this way that she doesn't need him to go and protect her.
Oh, yeah, especially if he, like, is guiding her to pull the trigger on him. Like, he's trying to help her overcome her barrier, and by sacrificing himself in the match. And also, you know, because he sees so much of Hadahara in her. And he has so much regret for, like, what happened to her. So, like, him having a chance to help Chika, you know, overcome her mental block and be able to shoot people while sacrificing himself in the inevitable rematch with Ninomiya's squad. Oh man, that would be an amazing thing to see happen.
Yeah, essentially, he puts himself in plain sight, and either she shoots him or someone else will take that point. That would be interesting.
Man, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Ashihara handles this, because I feel it'll be satisfying either way, but man, I really like this idea. And then the final question we have on Reddit is from Versus PhD, who asks, being that Masamune Kudo is the highest authority figure in the Border HQ, do you think he will possess a secretive black trigger of his own? Speculation-wise, how strong is Kido as a fighter? And I kind of like the theory we put out earlier in the podcast that Kido is actually not a fighter. He's actually not a strong character at all in terms of, like, combat ability. He himself was also kind of like Osamu in that he's more of a tactical leader type character, and that's why he's head of Border HQ. But, like, in terms of a fight, you know, he's not the strongest guy in the room. I think that is probably Shinoda for sure. So I'm very interested in seeing if that turns out to be true. But yeah, I'm very intrigued about what the Kido's history is with the former Border HQ, his relationship with Yugo Kuga, all of that stuff.
You know that they recently revealed that Osamu is living in Kido's room right now. So maybe we could discover some more pictures from his past. Like, we can discover that that before he became the chief of Border, he was an operator. That would be interesting.
Oh, that would, yeah.
He was rocking that miniskirt.
I wonder how he got his scar then. Did he just trip on the job or something?
That would be amazing. Either that or my theory is correct, and it's actually not a scar, but a spaghetti noodle.
He just had it on his face for all these years, and no one has the heart to tell him that it's still on his face. They just ignore it.
Yes, that would be perfect. Because you must admit, it doesn't look like a scar in the manga.
No, not really. I mean, sometimes it does, sometimes it feels it looks a little off, so who knows?
He's scary enough that I could believe that no one would just tell him.
Yeah. They don't want to upset him. Oof. But thank you, everyone, for all your great questions. We got so many, I'm always super happy to answer a lot of questions on these, even if we did lost two of our podcast mates in the process of recording the Q&A section here.
And that is going to be about it for the show. Thank you guys so much for sending in your World Trigger questions, and we really enjoyed answering those. And so, yeah, that's going to be about it. We want to thank everybody for joining us on this long, extensive World Trigger discussion, starting with Annalisa Chrisman, the letterer of World Trigger for Viz Media and Weekly Shonen Jump. So definitely go buy the World Trigger volume so you can support her work. and basically just support World Trigger in general. You should also go follow Annalisa on Twitter at Kaito Ace. That's KAITOU_Ace. So yeah, follow her on Twitter, and on her Twitter you can find out how to join the unofficial Osamu Mikomo fan club. I mentioned it on the show last time, but I basically sent in my request to become a member, and I am now officially member 100 of the Osamu Mikomo fan club. Yeah, so I got my card and everything, and it's all cool and shiny and everything, and so that's cool, and I want to thank Annalisa for letting me be a part of that club. I guess it was only a matter of time. I am now one of them, or one of us, and all that. I don't know where I'm going with this. And we also would like to thank Wensleydale Cheddar for coming on the show, the director and voice of Osamu for the World Trigger Abridged series, World Triggered. I feel really bad for the guy, because I guess World Triggered was just taken down again from YouTube recently, which is unfortunate. Basically, as soon as that's back up on YouTube, I'm sure Wensleydale will let everybody know on his Twitter, and you can follow him at Wensley Cheddar. So go follow him if you want to make sure you get the latest updates on the status of World Triggered. Sorry to hear that, buddy. Good luck fighting the copyright monsters or whatever, or whatever they're called. I don't know. I think they're called copyright laws. I don't know why I call them monsters. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Hopefully that gets back up on YouTube soon. And as for Sid, my good friend and co-host, go ahead and follow all his stuff. You could follow him on Twitter, especially at Ramayasha. He's been posting on there a little bit more frequently, and I enjoy that. I enjoy seeing Sid being a little more active on Twitter. And let's see, I guess that leaves me, Colton. You could find me on Twitter at SniperKing323. I do a bunch of manga threads. I won't list them all here. I think I said this last week on the show, but I really need to do a pinned tweet of those or something. I need to collect those in case anyone's interested. I don't know how many people actually keep up with those. I feel like it's presumptuous of me to assume that I have people who actually look forward to those, but I don't know. That's just me. But yeah, follow me on Twitter, SniperKing323. I do a few other podcasts such as Life Lessons, the Gintama Manga Cast, where I basically talk about Gintama via the old Viz Media release that was unfortunately canceled. But you can find that at gettolifelessons.wordpress.com. And you can also find me hosting One Podcast Prevails, along with my good friend Doctor from the Ass Backwards Anime Podcast. You can find that at onepodcastprevails.com. Basically, we talk about Detective Conan / Case Closed. So it's a fun show. I really love recording it, and I really like talking about Detective Conan. Even if I'm not super all the way caught up, I still love talking about it. I still love reading it. I still love watching it. So yeah, please go listen to that show. I have a lot of fun recording that show with Doctor. And as for Manga Mavericks and All Comic, you could find all of our podcasts over at all-comic.com. That's where they're all uploaded first. You can also find us on facebook.com/all.comic or on twitter.com/allcomic_. But if you want to follow Manga Mavericks specifically, you want to follow us on Twitter at manga_Mavericks. You can also follow us on mangamavericks.tumblr.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/manga-mavericks. And you can also email us anything about World Trigger, manga, the podcast. Basically, just send us an email and we'll read it on the show. And you can email us about anything related to the podcast or manga over at mangamavericks@gmail.com. But the most important thing, guys, is that you subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, whatever you call it. Giving us a rating and reviewing our show really helps the visibility of our podcast and whatnot. So if you have the time to and you feel up to it, go ahead and leave us something. That would be really appreciated. But anyway, so this has been an episode of the Manga Mavericks podcast, and we will see you guys next time for episode 50. Bye, guys.